It is one of the oldest and most popular manufacturers of super fast and super realistic pocket-sized die-cast toy cars. Born across the pond, they briefly moved to China before settling in the US, forced to share office space with their mortal enemy. Hi, I'm Dan Larson, and this is the history of Matchbox. Originally created by Lesney Products in 1953, Matchbox is a brand of die-cast cars, boats, tanks, action figures, giant robots, and other toys. Matchbox rose to fortune on the strength of Queen Elizabeth's popularity, only to declare bankruptcy in part due to the economic policies of Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher. I read that online. I don't even know who those people are. Lesney Products was founded in 1947 by Leslie Smith and Rodney Smith. Lesney is a combination, a portmanteau of their two first names, the Les and Leslie and the Knee and Rodney. The alternatives were either Rodley or Smith. It is a common naming method that was also employed by Mattel just 2 years earlier in 1945. Mattel being a combination of the names of founders Harold Matt Mason and Elliot L. Handler. Despite the fact that both Leslie and Rodney had the same last name, Smith, they were not actually related. They became friends while they were in school and continued during their service in World War II. They founded Lesney to design and manufacture die-cast metal products, things like door handles for cars or plant hooks. Their offices were located in a building that previously housed a pub called the Rifleman. The space became available after the pub was destroyed during the German Blitz of 1940. Shortly after opening for business in 1947, the Smiths connected with a man named John Jack Odell, who was attempting to set up his own die-casting business. Odell got into trouble with his local council, who refused to authorize him to run the business out of his home. The Smiths invited Odell to invest the money he was going to use on his own business to instead become a third owner of Lesney, and just in time as the Smiths were on the verge of going out of business. It was Odell's design and manufacturing skill that got Lesney back on track. Thank you to 80stees.com for sponsoring this video. Click the link in the description below and use code TOYGALAXY to get 30% off your order today. I'm currently in my 6th decade on planet Earth. The 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the aughts, the teens, and now the 20s. And while a lot has changed, there's at least one thing that hasn't: my taste in clothing. It's t-shirts all the way back. Lucky for people like me, you know, people with torsos, 80stees.com is also t-shirts all the way back. T-shirts for any occasion you might need a t-shirt for, which, again, for me, is all occasions. Going to the movies, a concert, a ball game, a TED Talk, visiting family, getting groceries, walking the dog, dentist appointment, wedding, optometrist, colonoscopy. Find the shirt that's right for you. And while you're there shopping for yourself, maybe you find something for someone else too. Your mom, your dad, your veterinarian. They've got shirts for teachers, artists, writers, and all your favorite YouTube editors. You can buy the shirt that I'm wearing in the video you're about to watch. Not the actual shirt, but one just like it. Click the link below and use code TOYGALAXY for 30% off your order today. Again, that's code TOYGALAXY for 30% off your order. And thanks again to 80stees.com. With Odell on board, each of the three owners settled into their areas of expertise. Leslie handled the books, Rodney was in charge of the die-cast pieces, and Odell made all the tooling. In 1947, still in their first year of business, Lesney initially focused on the production of parts and materials for the electrical and automotive industries. However, as the holidays approached, their regular industrial orders slowed down. It forced them to consider other areas of manufacturing they could exploit with the materials and machines already on hand. When an order came in for toy gun parts, they realized that toys were a logical solution. Die-cast toys weren't new. Other companies like Dinky and Corgi, both based in the UK, were already manufacturing toys with die-cast metal parts. As a matter of research, the owners of Lesney purchased a Dinky-manufactured road roller, or as we say in English, a steamroller. What they found was a product that they were positive they could not only make cheaper, but all around better. And so they did. Furthermore, where Dinky and Corgi products were made for authorized retailers, Lesney would allow any retailer to purchase and sell their products. Lesney was officially in the toy business and started making other kinds of vehicles, including a cement mixer, a bulldozer, a horse-drawn milk cart, soapbox racer, and Jumbo the walking elephant. Things changed in 1950 when the Korean War broke out. As part of a rationing effort, the British government banned the production of toys made out of zinc alloys, which is exactly what Lesney was using. Things were again looking so dire for the future of the company in 1951 that Rodney Smith sold his share of the company back to Leslie and Odell. During the Korean War years, from 1950 to 1953, Lesney was kept afloat by their regular industrial business, but they continued to make plans for toys to produce when the Korean War ended. One of those toys was a miniature version of the royal horse-drawn carriage that was used by King George VI and his wife Queen Elizabeth during the Festival of Britain in 1951. The Zinc ban prevented them from releasing it at the time, so they held on to it until the ban ended in 1953. In the meantime, King George died in 1952. Lesney cleverly edited the mold to remove King George, and the carriage was repurposed and released in 2 different sizes as the coronation carriage for Queen Elizabeth in 1953. The coronation carriage sold so astoundingly well that it convinced Lesney to put way more resources into the design and manufacture of miniature die-cast toys, and the timing couldn't have been better. What happens next depends on who's telling the story. One version of the story is that the school Jack Odell's daughter Annie attended had a very strict rule about the kinds of toys that kids could bring in. Nothing bigger than a Matchbox. On the other hand, Odell himself has said that his daughter Annie had a penchant for playing pranks, and one of her favorite pranks was to collect small bugs and spiders and store them in matchboxes to spring upon unsuspecting victims to her laugh-out-loud delight. In an attempt to stop her from doing that, Odell made her a Matchbox-sized version of the road roller Lesney produced a few years earlier. When she took that to school, all the kids loved it and wanted one of their own. Regardless of where the name came from, heading into Christmas 1953, Lesney mass-produced the smaller version of the road roller and sold it in small boxes with the new Matchbox branding. And while the road roller didn't sell great through Christmas, it did pick up steam after the holidays. As 1954 began, kids were flush with holiday pocket change and found Matchbox cars in stores all over England. Lesney pushed forward with smaller Matchbox versions of several of their other previously produced toys and designed new toys as well, each one receiving a numerical designation with Road Roller as number 1. Through the 1950s, Matchbox continued to produce new vehicles for their toy line and even expanded to include foreign models. Their growth and expansion were assisted and limited by Moco, the company that marketed and distributed Matchbox toys. Moco is a combination, a portmanteau of letters in the first and last name of its founder, Moses Constam. While Lesney's pricing and quality on Matchbox toys were unmatched by all other competitors in the field, they were paying Moco for services that they could have performed themselves. In 1959, Lesney bought out Moco, which allowed them to move faster, reinvesting profits back into Lesney directly. The newfound financial freedom kicked off an era of growth that saw Matchbox sales and physical footprint grow as they built more facilities around London's East End. By 1960, Matchbox was producing a full line of 75 unique models of cars, trucks, and machinery. By 1968, Matchbox was a true global phenomenon, making and selling more die-cast model cars than any other company around the world, with some production estimates as high as 1,000 toy cars per minute. With success like that, competitors began to spring up both at home in England and around the world, none more significant than Mattel's Hot Wheels.
For parking my Corvette, the Matchbox garage, the best you can get.
The place I park my horse and my Dodge is right here in the good old Matchbox garage.
There's so much to do at the Matchbox garage. I'll never get bored with my Model A Ford.
Matchbox Super Garage. Any way you set it up, it's the perfect place for all your Matchbox cars.
Parking my 57 Chevy was never this heavy.
It was after Mattel co-founder Elliott Handler saw his own grandchildren playing with Matchbox toy cars that he realized there was a very specific hole in the market that they needed to address. If someone was going to sell die-cast toy cars to his grandchildren, it was going to be Mattel. In 1968, Mattel began producing Hot Wheels cars hot due to their innovative system of high-speed, low-friction racing wheels. They were smoother and faster than every other toy car on the market. When they presented their first models at New York Toy Fair in 1968, Kmart alone placed an order for 50 million cars. Lesney's Matchbox focused on the realism of their reproductions. Mattel's Hot Wheels offered something new, fantastic original designs with bright colors and less concern for being properly scaled. Mattel produced all manner of Hot Wheels accessories and racetracks designed specifically to take advantage of their innovative high-speed racing toys. In 1969, Lesney found themselves fighting competition at home from Corgi and Dinky and overseas by Mattel and another newcomer, Johnny Lightning, manufactured by Topper Toys. Lesney recognized that they had to do something to refresh the brand to stay competitive. To that end, Matchbox introduced their Superfast line of cars which, surprise, surprise, were highly influenced by Hot Wheels and intentionally designed to fit the racetracks that Mattel produced. Between Hot Wheels and Johnny Lightning, the US market had all but collapsed for Matchbox. Johnny Lightning was actually gaining ground on Hot Wheels. Fortunately for both Mattel and Lesney, Topper Toys went bankrupt in 1972 after it was discovered that business fraud was a significant part of their market strategy. Matchbox continued to expand their offerings in order to recoup the market share they lost to Hot Wheels and Johnny Lightning. They introduced new lines like Skybusters, focused on airplanes, Battle Kings, focused on military vehicles, Sea Kings for boats, and Adventure 2000 with original science fiction designs. Matchbox held their ground as a global competitor through the 1970s. Despite their ability to innovate and compete with Mattel's Hot Wheels, Lesney was subject to economic conditions at home in England that did not equally impact Mattel. Heading into the 1980s, global recession found its way to the United Kingdom, devastating manufacturing in particular. Newly elected Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher introduced new fiscal policies aimed at bringing down inflation and reducing unemployment. However, the net result was a rise in the exchange rate of the British pound, meaning that it was cheaper to import goods from other countries than it was to purchase them from British manufacturers. And it wasn't just Lesney who were impacted. Longtime UK-based competitor Dinky Toys closed up shop in 1979. 3 years later, in 1982, Lesney was forced to declare bankruptcy. Jack Odell left Lesney to start his own company called Ledo. That's Odell spelled backwards. Matchbox was sold to Universal Holding Company of Hong Kong. Universal reorganized the Matchbox assets as a new company called Matchbox International Limited. While some of the manufacturing of Matchbox stayed in England, most of it moved to Macau. To further expand its offerings, Matchbox spent a few years importing and rebranding toys from Japan, toys for TV shows that had been imported and rebranded for television like Robotech and Voltron. It was Matchbox that produced toys for Ring Raiders, Pee-wee's Playhouse, and the Keshi-style Monster in My Pocket. They even jumped into the transforming robot craze and the excitement over Halley's Comet with their own line called Parasites, one of the oddest oddities in a market oddly full of oddities. Branching out past miniature cars wasn't entirely new for Matchbox. In the 70s, they launched Fighting Furies, a line of pirate action figures scaled to compete with Mego's 7-inch action figures, as well as Mobile Action Command, a line of slightly articulated figures with an assortment of rescue vehicles and playsets. In 1985, Matchbox manufacturing was moved to China, thanks to a new joint venture between Matchbox owner Universal Holdings based in Hong Kong and investors in Shanghai. The new venture was named Shanghai Universal Toys. In 1986, Matchbox International went public on the New York Stock Exchange. In 1987, Universal Toys purchased former Matchbox rival Dinky Toys and merged all of its assets into Matchbox. After just 5 years, Universal was ready to unload Matchbox. In 1992, Tyco purchased Matchbox for $135 million. The acquisition brought their total annual revenue to over $700 million in sales, surpassing Fisher-Price to become the third largest toy company in the world behind Hasbro and Mattel. That said, in 1996, Tyco themselves were purchased by Mattel for $755 million. After 33 years of bitter rivalry, Hot Wheels and Matchbox, the two miniature car titans, were forced to sit next to each other in the cafeteria, tasked to find a way to work together for the benefit of all, but mostly for Mattel. In 2023, Mattel scored a phenomenal global box office smash hit with their Barbie feature film. With an estimated budget in the range of roughly $140 million, it did nearly $1.5 billion in sales worldwide. Success like that meant that every single toy in the Mattel toy box was up for consideration for the next feature film treatment. Both Masters of the Universe and Matchbox, not Hot Wheels, Matchbox, are due out in 2026. Yep, a movie about Matchbox. Probably about cars, somehow, I assume, maybe some boats, maybe Voltron. All I can tell you right now is that it is being produced by Mattel Films and Skydance. Sam Hargrave is signed on to direct with John Cena and Jessica Biel in starring roles, and it's going straight to Apple TV+. As of this video, both Matchbox and Hot Wheels are still owned by Mattel. So what's the difference between the two brands? Great question. I'm not sure anyone knows for sure. A quick perusal around the internet seems to suggest that collectors view Matchbox as being rooted in realistic interpretations of real cars, while Hot Wheels is more about fantasy vehicles or modified versions of cars. What I do know is that Matchbox seems to be more about accuracy. Hot Wheels is more about speed. And Mattel still hasn't taken advantage of a portmanteau, a combination of the two brands called Hotbox. Hey, thanks for watching. Please hit like, hit subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. Thank you very much to those of you who already are. Please visit our Patreon at patreon.com/toygalaxy. Several different tiers to address your specific Secret Galaxy content needs. Check out the Secret Galaxy merch shop at secretgalaxy.shop. All merchandise is physically in stock and ready to ship. Links to all of this in the description down below. And let us know in the comments down below how many Hot Wheels and Matchbox cars you think you've owned over your lifetime. I don't have nearly as many now as I did when I was a kid, but I also think I have a lot more than I think I do. 2 on my desk, a few in the drawer, 5 or 6 in that bin, 7 or 8 on the shelves over there. I'm afraid that if I actually bring everything together that I own throughout my collection, I might actually qualify as a collector, and then I'll have to weigh in on things that are important to the community. Do I prefer Hot Wheels or Matchbox? Is speed or realism more important? How do you pronounce the name of Jack Odell's company? Yedo? Ledo? Lido?
I don't know.
Nobody knows.